And Egypt's President Hosni Mubarak has announced he won't seek re-election in September's vote after more than a week of violent protests across the country urging him to step down. But the U.S. president has called for him to begin transition immediately, a shift in rhetoric towards the leader it backed for nearly 30 years of his rule. Now, we can cross live to our correspondent, Paul Hosni, who is in Egypt for us and has got the latest. Paul, the crowds are reported to be unsatisfied with Mubarak's promise to leave after September's vote. So can we expect more unrest in the streets there?
Well, Marina, dead man walking. That is how the thousands of demonstrators on the streets of Cairo are describing President Mubarak's last attempts to cling to power. But just how dead is he, and for how much longer does he plan to walk? That is the question on everyone's mind. The address that he gave to the nation late last night suggested that he plans to stay in power at least until September, with President Mubarak saying that he will then hold free and fair elections. But gauging the reaction from people here, they simply do not believe him. There is still a lot of anger. They believe, as some protesters have told me, that a leopard does not change its spots. They're also very frightened that Mubarak might use the next few months to implement his security forces to arrest, to oppress, and to intimidate people who have taken part in these demonstrations. Having said that, though, there are many millions of Egyptians who've stayed at home, who've been watching these demonstrations on television, and they might be uncertain as to what to support next. You need to remember that the economy here has practically grinded to a halt. It's estimated that this crisis has cost the country some $12 billion and set the economy back by some 6 months. People need food for their families. These shops are closed, these schools are closed, and some 1.7 million people who are employed by the Interior Ministry might not support Mubarak, but certainly want to know how they're going to get their children to school tomorrow. And they might be the people who might push for at least the protesters to quieten their voices and for some kind of compromise to be met.
Well, Paul, the question that I'd like to ask you now is why is there a change of rhetoric from the U.S. there? As we know that it used to back Mubarak, and now it seems to be frustrated and changing its position. What's going on?
Well, certainly the U.S. is playing a very critical role here, and there's no denying that it's got its hands firmly meddling in Egyptian affairs. What we do know is that before Mubarak gave that State of the Nation address yesterday, he did meet with an American envoy. Pressure was put onto him to call for free and fair elections, and we know as much from the American President, Barack Obama, who held a 30-minute phone call with the Egyptian president after he gave that State of the Nation address. Obama said that he had had a direct and frank call with Mubarak. In that call, he had expressed the need for a transition to peaceful elections as soon as possible. But when you get the reaction from people here on the streets, they are asking for America to stay out of their affairs. The same criticism is leveled at the American support, or what people here believe is American support, for Mohammed al-Baradei. He is the former chief of the International Atomic Energy Agency. He also won the Nobel Prize with that agency back in 2005. Now, he is being touted as the possible leader of an interim government. He said as much, and it seems as if opposition groups are supporting him. But talking to protesters, they do not support him. Many of them, in fact, don't even know who he is. He's a figure that's much better known on the international stage than in his own country. So whether it is Mubarak, whether it is al-Baradei, Egyptians feeling that they're both made of the same cloth, they'll both push an American agenda, and really the call I'm hearing here on the streets is for America to stay out.
All right, Paul, thanks very much indeed for bringing us this update from the Egyptian capital, Cairo. Paul Hosni there.